Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast here on thelittleshaman.com, brought to you by Transrelational Healing and ShamanSpiritCenter.com. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that a lot of people wonder about, and that is if narcissists are insecure. The short answer is yes. People are often surprised by this revelation because many people believe that narcissists really are as arrogant and confident as they appear to be. And there is a pervasive misconception that narcissists are completely unbothered by everything, that they truly believe themselves to be amazing. The reality is that these personalities are generally extremely fragile and much more sensitive than they might first appear to be. The constant attempts by so many narcissists to appear arrogant and confident and certain and as if they think they're so amazing is in fact a direct reaction to that fragility, that insecurity. It's a way to deny it. The first dictionary definition of insecure is not firmly fixed, liable to give way or break. This would be like an unstable fence post. A related definition is able to be broken into or illicitly accessed. This is like a bank without a good security system. Some synonyms for insecure regarding this definition are unprotected, vulnerable, defenseless. Regarding people, the definition of insecure is not confident or assured, uncertain, and anxious. An antonym for insecure in this context is confident. A third definition that was not listed is a more clinical application, and this would be something like severely lacking internal security and stability. All of these definitions actually apply to pathologically narcissistic personalities. Insecure is absolutely the correct word to use here, but to say narcissists are insecure is almost laughable when we consider the completely benign connotations most people attach to that word when it's used in this context. That doesn't make the word inaccurate, but it does mean that many people might not understand the severity of the situation because of what they associate that word with in general. The personalities and identities of narcissists are definitely not firmly fixed. They are definitely liable to give way or break. This is what underpins the biggest part of their dysfunction. Narcissists definitely feel that they are vulnerable, unprotected, defenseless. This is why they're so defensive and why they appear to be so proactively aggressive. They're absolutely not confident or assured, absolutely uncertain and anxious. A narcissist's projective confidence and certainty is an act in the end. It's a defensive posture, an active, ongoing denial of reality. They can be decent at hiding it, especially at first, but the more exposure you have to these personalities, the better you can see it. In fact, it can end up being so obvious that people wonder how they ever could have missed it. It's just that they were not expecting someone to behave in a way that completely contradicts the reality of what they actually are. The reality is that the entirety of this person's projective image is often a lie. Whatever they appear to be, it often comes out that they're the opposite of that. The one blessing here is that because this is a performed identity and not an actual one, it's often not performed very well. It may be overdone or underwhelming. There are generally gaps and holes in the facade, areas where it can be seen through. Because it is a facade and not genuine, narcissists are usually unaware of this, and it often leads to them exposing themselves for who and what they really are, because they're ignorant of what a person who legitimately had those qualities and legitimately was that kind of person would do or say. At first, it might seem like just a weird anomaly, some off thing they said, or what seems like a strange reaction to something, a cold pocket in an otherwise warm room, let's say. But the longer the relationship or the interaction goes on, the more of this there is, until people are left with no choice but to realize that this person is just not who they say they are. No one who really has those qualities or really is that kind of person makes so many mistakes when it comes to acting like a person who really has those qualities and really is that way. The only possible conclusion is that this is just not true. That's not how they really are. We often hear that the behavior of narcissists is confusing and makes no sense. That's true, but the biggest reason it doesn't make sense in the beginning is because we're still trying to match that up to the image that this person presented of themselves. If you remove that image from the equation and create a new image of them based on their actual behavior, it's not confusing at all. Most of the time, too, people are trying to match up words to actions. The creation of the idealized image of the narcissist is mostly done through words. Their actions actually usually do not support this image, and when we look back over the relationship, we often find that they never really did. It was really only just words. That's an important lesson that we can take away from this awful experience. When someone's words and actions do not match, something's wrong. When we think of the insecurity of narcissists, we can think of it most accurately using the last definition given here, which was severely lacking internal security and stability. A person's identity is their anchor. It grounds them as the thing which tethers them to reality and their experience of reality, not to mention themselves. When this is unstable, their anchor to reality and to themselves is not very heavy. It's not very grounding. When someone does not have this kind of anchor, you can generally expect them to be anxious, irrational, paranoid, fearful, defensive, all of the things that narcissists are underneath. You might also expect them to be inauthentic, performative, aggressive, moody, delusional, to have a personality that seems unfixed and that can change, all of the things that you would expect from someone who is not grounded in reality and who they are. In narcissists, this goes a step further, though, because in most situations where someone is not grounded in reality or who they are, they can become grounded because they do, in fact, have a stable identity. Even if it's somewhat unstable, it's generally more stable than what we see in narcissists. If someone does not have a stabilizing anchor like an identity, they cannot become grounded. This means they cannot stabilize. This is extremely important to understand. If there were one word that you could use to describe narcissists the best, unstable would probably be that word. Emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, even physically, for many of them, narcissists are completely pathologically unstable. This is perhaps the biggest issue when dealing with them on any basis and is one of the most important things to remember when doing so. A personality disorder is a holistic condition. Holistic means whole. In this context, we are saying that personality disorders are holistic because they affect the entire personality. That means everything a person does, says, thinks, feels, believes, everything is impacted by this somehow. This person is not stable. Everything they think, feel, say, do, believe, hold dear, who they are, what they are, all of it can change radically in very little time because it's based on things that are unstable. Personality is the expression of identity. If a person's identity is chaotic and unstable, their personality will be too, as will most other things about them. As an illustration of this, people often say that narcissists are chameleons or that they are mimics. They are definitely that, and they have this adaptation because they don't have a stable identity to express, so they take pieces and parts from other people instead to try to create one. These things are used as guideposts or touchstones to help the narcissist get through life as they try to decipher how to behave, what to say, what to do, what to think, what to believe, what to choose, how to feel, and who they are without any real understanding of any of these things. To not have a strong, stable identity causes people to feel ungrounded, untethered, and lost. Narcissists are no exception to that, and it accounts for a large part of their fearful orientation to the world. When you don't even know who you are from one minute to the next, how can you ever get to know anybody else? How can they ever get to know you? How can you ever trust anyone? How can you ever be sure of anything? You can't be, so in the case of narcissists, they just pretend. They pretend to be things they're not, to know things they don't, to have answers they don't have. They live in a world of illusion. But an illusion is all it is. If you've ever argued with a narcissist, and if you're listening to this, you probably have, you probably noticed how easy it is for them to become uncertain about what they're saying or to change it, or how often they accuse you of trying to cause them to be uncertain about what they're saying. That's because many times they aren't really sure of what they're saying is true or right or not. Because of that and the fear attached to this uncertainty, they have to double down and insist that they are correct, especially when they're unsure. This points to their insecurities. Secure people are able to admit that they could be wrong or that they don't know something. With the fairly recent popularity of the term gaslighting, you can see this very clearly. Narcissists often accuse others of gaslighting because the definition of gaslighting is making someone feel confused about their experience of reality, and that happens to narcissists constantly. No one is intending to do that to them, usually. It happens because the reality narcissists are subjectively experiencing and the one that the people around them are actually living in are often not the same at all. Rather than at least examining their own perception to make sure that they're seeing things correctly, or if there's anything they might have missed in their assessment of the situations, narcissists automatically latch on to the idea that other people are lying to trick or manipulate or otherwise take advantage of them somehow. This is arguably safer and less stressful than having to face that they could be wrong, because when they have no way to ground themselves, being wrong about anything means you could be wrong about everything. And this creates an existential fear in a person who has no ability to stabilize themselves and nothing to anchor themselves to. It's scary to believe that everyone around you is out to get you, but it's much less scary than having to face the reality that you actually can't identify threats accurately or discern what's true at all. Then you really are defenseless. If you identify everything as a threat, then a lack of ability in this area ceases to be a factor. Sure, nobody can get close to you or you to them, but narcissists can't tolerate that kind of closeness anyway, so it's not that bad. Certainly, it's not worse than facing the true reality. The reality is that the bravado, certainty, confidence, arrogance, any other similar thing that you see in someone who is pathologically narcissistic is an act. For some, you could go so far as to say anything that looks like normal functioning is an act. These things are an overcompensation for the insecurity and instability of the narcissist personality and the resulting lack of conviction in literally anything. In practical terms, they are pretending to have, be, feel, and believe things that they really don't, because of a fear that not to do this is to appear vulnerable and weak, which means that you will be unsafe. Remember that for narcissists, the world is an unsafe place full of predators looking to take advantage of everybody at every turn. The pathologically narcissistic personality does not appear to view themselves as wolves among sheep, despite what they might say. Even those who may seem to genuinely believe that will generally report a fear-based orientation to the world underneath of that. They have to be predators, they say, because if they're not, they'll be prey. This is a fear-based orientation to the world, and it exposes a deep insecurity, not just about their ability to recognize threats, but about their ability to protect themselves. This is a pretty fundamental insecurity, and it affects them on many levels. Whereas most other people would recognize that this being taken to such an extreme is a problem and get help with that, narcissists simply believe that everyone is a monster, so they have to get them before they themselves get gotten. This is a sad thing, but remember that your pity and compassion are very likely perceived as weakness by this person. This is completely wasted on them. Anyone who has ever tried to talk to a narcissist about trust or love or any type of fundamental goodness has likely been laughed at or made fun of. They generally do not believe in any of these things, and people talking about these things are perceived to either be complete fools believing in fairy tales or sly manipulators trying to make a fool out of the narcissist. This again exposes deep fear and a deep insecurity regarding trusting other people. Another reason they are fundamentally insecure is because narcissists are dependent on others to regulate themselves and to secure their needs. They don't trust other people at all, and they don't really have a way to ensure that others will do what they want except to try to make them. This is an imperfect method that doesn't work anywhere near as well as they need it to, and this causes massive insecurity on their part regarding basic needs and their ability to function. Their attempts to control others expose this insecurity, as does their inability to tolerate when people don't do what they want. Secure people don't need to control others, and they can take no for an answer. If someone feels they have no power or control over anything and no ability to secure even their basic needs, that creates a feeling of vulnerability that far surpasses what most people think of as insecurity. This is the daily existence for many narcissists, a scramble to regulate that fear and secure the things that they need. Unfortunately, these things are generally procured from other people. And because the narcissist cannot control other people, this creates extreme feelings of instability and insecurity. This inability to control other people features largely in the insecurity of narcissistic personalities. Remember again, we are not talking about insecurity as it is thought of by most people, where it means that someone just feels not as confident about something as they could. This is insecurity in the sense of not being stable and secure as a human being able to exist and function in the world. These are people who generally have no true identity, no ability to regulate themselves, no ability to meet their own needs, and no true confidence or belief in anything that they think, feel, believe, do, say, hear, or know. No anchor at all. It would be like if you had a house built on an unstable foundation. The house will not stand long. It can't because the thing that makes it stable and secure, the thing that grounds and anchors it as a structure, is flawed. Maybe it's even missing. Think about what happens to a mobile home in even a small tornado or a very strong storm. Mobile homes generally don't have foundations. They are not usually anchored to the ground by anything. Without a foundation, they can be easily destroyed in this situation. Single-family homes with foundations can be destroyed by tornadoes too, but it generally takes a much larger amount of force to do so, and even if they are, often the foundation of the home is still there. This is a serviceable metaphor for how the human mind works. The identity is the foundation upon which the rest of the structure is built. If that is unstable or non-existent, the rest of the structure is unstable and insecure. Your identity is what makes you you. It's made up of your beliefs, qualities, traits, moral codes, values, and all the other things that make you the unique person that you are in the world. When these things are not solid, it leads to a shaky, insecure, and unstable sense of self. That is what you see with pathologically narcissistic personalities. For whatever reason, these things have not developed correctly in the pathologically narcissistic personality. They have not been able to differentiate the self from external objects, meaning other people, and develop their own identity. This process, which is supposed to begin when a person is less than 1 year old, was never successfully completed in narcissists and is now trying to complete itself over and over again, which is what creates the push-pull of these relationships. It cannot complete itself, unfortunately, because the time and ability to create a separate, stable identity has long since passed. What is there now is what there is, leaving narcissists in a limbo where they desperately want to individuate but can't. They are constantly struggling to build and assert an identity that they don't actually have, trying to fight against the feeling that they're going to be swallowed up by people around them and disappear. This creates an instability and an insecurity that people who have more stable identities cannot really understand. Narcissists are not the only people this happens to, of course. It can happen to anybody who has an unstable identity. The adaptations narcissists use to cope with or get around it are often abusive and predatory, however, and this is where the problem is. Generally speaking, they create an image of themselves that fits into whatever they think is good or strong, and then walk around the world trying to force people to agree with them that this is how they really are. Because this is not actually who or how they are, the means they have to use to achieve this are unfair and deceptive. This is not necessarily a conscious choice per se. It's not like most narcissists decided as children to create a fake persona and pass it off as real. It's more that this is what the brain does to get around the fact that there is no stable identity. Human personalities need a self-image in order to function, and since narcissists don't have a secure real one, the brain creates an idealized one instead. There's often a main image, the victim, the hero, the mother, the good guy, and then offshoots of that main image that are more closely fitting to the situation. This is that mimicry again, the chameleon-like behavior that people often talk about. It's a natural adaptation to the lack or even complete absence of a stable identity. However, that being said, narcissists do know after a fashion that what they're telling people and how they are representing themselves is not the reality. It appears to be something more like, this is who I would like to be, or this is who I wish I was. As the relationship goes on and they no longer idealize you, it turns into, well, this is who I would be if you deserved it, or if you would let me. It's doubtful they view this as deceptive since they believe that to be true. The fact that this isn't actually who they are either way seems to be beside the point, as far as they can see it. The fact that so many people cannot see through to the insecurity of narcissistic personalities is a testament to how good these folks really are at hiding it. And in a manner of speaking, they do that by not hiding it at all. They hide it in plain sight, as it were. It's so much a part of things that you don't see it, especially because they keep on with the constant misdirection from the thing that's there in plain view all along. Their behavior actually points to their fundamental insecurity like a neon sign, but because it's so constant and in some ways so obvious, it's overlooked. Well, of course it is. There's too much other stuff going on. It's like not noticing the hum of the heater because some chaotic TV show is blasting. You can feel the heat, and if you focus, you can hear that it's on, but the TV is distracting you because it's so loud. When the TV show stops blaring, or when you focus and really listen, you can hear that heater plain as day. It was always there underneath. That is how the deep-seated fundamental insecurity in narcissists is. It's underneath of everything the entire time, setting the temperature and impacting the entire climate of the relationship without really being noticed because Bozo the Clown is on the TV, shrieking and screaming and laughing and dancing and honking horns and doing cartwheels, being so distracting that you just don't notice it in a conscious way. But it's there, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Remember that, and remember what you are really dealing with when you are dealing with narcissists. Fundamentally insecure, fundamentally unstable people who are trying desperately to deny that to others and most of all to themselves. You're dealing with a decent mimic, a mediocre actor, and that's it. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online, over the phone, via text, via messenger, via email, and through Skype and Zoom for clients worldwide. So if you are interested in speaking with me one-on-one, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. I have several books in publication, so if you are interested in picking any of those up, you can do that on Amazon.com or on littleshaman.org. I teach workshops, seminars, and clinics, so if you're interested in seeing what we're running this month, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that. And if you're interested in joining our support group with access to exclusive content, weekly support meetings, and more, you can visit littleshaman.org to do that as well. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by Transrelational Healing and ShamanSpiritCenter.com. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you. Have a beautiful day.
If you've been struggling through dealing with or recovering from an unhealthy relationship with a narcissist or other toxic personality, the Little Shaman has a catalog of over 500 YouTube videos designed to support your journey from discovery to recovery. You can also find additional resources on the Little Shaman website, including tools, courses, workshops, a support group with weekly meetings, and one-on-one appointments with the Little Shaman that are open to clients worldwide. There's even an AI chatbot built and trained exclusively by the Little Shaman using her work that can answer questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For more information, visit littleshaman.org. You can listen to The Little Shaman wherever you find your favorite podcasts.